welcome to Comic Books and You. Today we're going to cover the issue 4 of City Boy, which came out last week. This series has had its ups and downs. Issue 2 wasn't that great, but let's face it, it had a lot of action compared to the other two. The other issue 3 was really nice because of how Cameron interacted with Superman and how Superman behaved. He acted like Superman for once, as an example. In this one, we actually have Nightwing acting like Nightwing, so we're going in the right direction once again. It's not as good as the previous one overall, but it's still a half-decent comic. Our City Boy is not quite a full-blown hero yet, but he is okay to settle with not hurting people. Still has a pretty hard time controlling his full potential and his full power, so we're not faced with what one Nerdrotic would call an hero's journey. He is very powerful, yes, but he doesn't control his powers, and he has a lot to learn. And what he has to learn is not that he is great and awesome, is that maybe he needs to control himself and control his emotions. He has grown to have a significant dislike for Intergang and Dr. Mokarison up until now. So even in Bludhaven, where he is right now for this story, when Intergang is mentioned, he is ready to take action. As I said, we're also seeing Nightwing in this one, which we could call world's second greatest detective, since Batman is the greatest detective. But that ignores the fact that Detective Chimp exists, and Detective Chimp, I would say, is better than Nightwing at being a detective. He acts as somewhat of a big brother to Cameron throughout this particular story and has a decent chemistry with him, which is very nice to see. He has a strong sense of justice, but it's a bit different from what Batman has as well, and it is reflected in this particular story. At the end of the previous issue, City Boy had decided to leave Metropolis to go to Bludhaven following his mother's taxi. So when he gets to Bludhaven, he follows the memory of his mother throughout the city and finds her with another man and another child. And he seems happy for her, but at the same time, you can feel that there is some distrust and some issues underneath and underlying. Because of that, his powers kind of get out of control, and he keeps glancing into the past, and he reaches the point where Bludhaven was hit by a nuclear weapon. That would probably scare and scar someone, and he kind of has a pretty awful reaction to it, and Nightwing tries to show up and tries to calm him down. Cameron kind of overreacts and summons the spirit of Bludhaven, which appears to be a metallic bat. It's a pretty cool design overall when we see the one with the wings made out of the chain link fence, and it turns into a small bat once it's under control. Cameron does calm down because he recognizes Nightwing. They work together in a short story from the free comic book day We Are Legends comic that you can maybe get online. I'm not 100% sure where you can get it. I've got it in one of my boxes. And the cute little bat spirit seems to like Nightwing Company quite a bit, which makes sense since Nightwing has been protecting Bludhaven for quite some time. Nightwing and Cameron kind of get into a discussion to see if they can help each other. And Nightwing says that he'll help Cameron find his mother because she's not in Bludhaven anymore. If he helps her find a petty criminal, Jenny Nguyen, of course she's Asian because this is We Are Legends and everything has to be Asians in there. And Nightwing convinces City Boy by saying that she has ties to Intergang, so they have a small discussion. It's not a huge back and forth. I mean, it's a pretty simple exchange here between the two. They track her down pretty quickly as the city spirit is able to follow her around and know where she's at. And they get on a rooftop where she's currently fleeing, and City Boy grabs a lighter that fell from her pocket, which belonged to her father. And we see a flashback of Jenny Nguyen's life, where looks like she was there when the city was hit by a nuclear bomb. She was in a shelter. She lived a rough life on the street and was not too kind. Nightwing decides to go after Jenny, but City Boy doesn't want her to get arrested and detained, so he gives chase as well, which leads the city spirit to kind of go out of control a little bit especially when Intergang tries to stop Nightwing, along with Dr. Mokarison, who's City Boy's nemesis at this point. He gets the city spirit back under control fairly quickly. It's not a huge deal as when he was dealing with a dragon in the previous issue. But Dr. Mokarison keeps goading him, saying that he's bad deep inside and that his mother knew that he was bad deep inside. And before Cameron takes action there, Mokarison and his Intergang goons boom tube out of Bludhaven. City Boy pleads with Nightwing not to send Jenny to jail. And he says no, that he's going to send her to a safe house instead where she can be safe from Intergang. Cameron disappears and decides to go touch grass because of his anxiety and how his life is. And the last shot we get in this comic is what I believe is Swamp Thing's eyes. So a nice little ending here. This is an half-decent comic. It's not the best of the lot. Issue 3 was much better in terms of how the story was set up. But it does grow the character, gives them relations with other heroes in the DC universe, kind of moves things along, and tries to make Cameron more of a hero at the same time. So it moves in the direction that we want it to go for a new character like this. The cover for this particular issue, the standard cover, which we have here, is decent overall. It is meant to entice people who read Nightwing to buy this particular issue and drive sales, more than likely. It's pretty nice with the bats, with the gargoyle. Nightwing looking extremely serious, while City Boy is a mix of nonchalant attitude and puzzled puzzle face mixed here. That would be nice to actually see Cameron in this particular kind of situation or particular attitude, because right now all we really get from him is that serious hard-ass attitude, which gets a little grating. If this was the only thing we keep seeing from this character going forward, it will lose its appeal fairly quickly. The We Are Legends branding that we have at bottom left is sort of weak. I don't think it's driving sales. I don't think it's a successful publishing initiative. None of those books are in the top 50, top 100 sellers. I have a feeling it's not long for this world. Maybe some of the characters will be recycled. Maybe some of the characters will be, teamed up. Something along those lines, but I doubt it will be a long-lasting kind of thing. As far as the book itself goes, well, it's the standard poor quality paper, floppy covered, the stuff mainly get from all of the big brands. People should really start complaining about this more than they are. I mean, I know a lot of people are talking about it, but when you see that Black Label Comics get better quality paper and a cardstock cover, I mean, there's no reason, especially with the price that they're charging for those books nowadays. There's the interior branding for City Boy that's really weak here. It's a tiny corner at the top right of one of the page. You can easily miss it. It's not terrible, but those kind of interior branding, at least put attention to the author, usually the artist, things like that. We're not wasting page space for it, but it could have been a bit better. Our back cover is a big ad for DC Dual Force, the new trading card game that DC is creating online. I haven't tried it. It's revenue generating since it's another company that makes the game. So they're basically paying DC for the licensing fees on the characters and the game itself. I don't know. I used to like VS a decent amount, so I'm not sure I'd be buying into that one. The front flap is an ad for Superpowered, the DC story, a documentary on Max. It's not revenue generating directly, but since it's on Max, you could bring subs into Max, and if subs are brought into Max through DC products, possibly that money will go down into DC's pockets. Not a awful thing overall, and it sounds like at least a bit of an interesting documentary here. Got another Batman series, Batman and Robin, that's starting September, so I think it just came out this week. Like all the Batman stuff, I don't care. The art on this particular cover there is definitely not my style either. I honestly don't know. They're not advertising anybody as Eisner winning either. I mean, that's a proof that, well, maybe there's some quality to it. Who knows, but I'm definitely not buying into this just yet until I hear from other people. Oh, wow, Wonder Woman issue 1, because we're rebooting Wonder Woman again. That could be pretty cool. Oh, wait, no, the author is Eisner Award winner Tom DeCook King. Nope, not getting into that in there either. There we go. The physical manifestation of Bludhaven being a giant bat is a bit weird. I know it's right next to Gotham and kind of relates to Batman, but I would have gone with something a little bit different here. I don't know what exactly. I mean, not the author, but it just feels a little bit weird just because we know Gotham would also be a bat. The cityscape manifestation City Boy keeps seeing are pretty much omnipresent in this book. So it's actually pretty nice to see how his power manifests now that it's awakened, basically. Cameron should probably spend some time learning self-control and emotional control in a Buddhist monastery, or maybe even by hanging out with Batman for a little bit. It wouldn't be a terrible idea for him, I believe. The 2-page flashback for the lighter is pretty cool overall. It gives us a good idea of what's going on. It's well paced for a 2-page thing, giving us a full idea of what Jenny Nguyen's life was like for most of it, let's say. It plays on a lot of stereotypes. Kind of find it a bit annoying for that, but it's not game-changing or game-breaking either. I would say the biggest thing about this book is that there's nothing bad or that takes you out of the story, but it's somewhat bland. It's missing something through most of the book that would make it very different or very special. Everything is just how I would expect it, and that's just not enough to make me either pull the plug on the book and stop reading it, or really make me super happy and super ready to recommend it either. It's really in that weird lane where if it gets worse, it'll be catastrophic. And if it gets better, it's not a huge improvement. A little bit of an odd situation. This book has a few more story elements that I do want to talk about here. First one being that Cameron is trying to work through his abandonment issue and let it go, but he still can't at this point in the story. Maybe in the next 2 books, we'll see something different. It's already a thing that we saw with the real Captain Marvel. And in the latest movie, it was played up for, really, he was abandoned by his parents. You've got different versions of what happened to Billy Batson, but it kind of feels repetitive here. It's story beats that we've already seen from DC, and not too long ago either. Maybe this is not the most effective way of playing this character. I do like the fact that the spirit of Bludhaven is very friendly with Nightwing when it's under control. That's how most of those city spirits should behave when they're dealing with the Guardian superhero. It would be the same with Metropolis and Superman. Of course, that particular story was a little bit different because Cameron had really very little control over his powers. It works fairly well and can bring Cameron to meet up with just about anybody, summon the city spirit, and everybody has a good time. This makes it fairly interesting. The last bit that I really didn't like here, honestly, was that our generic villainess that's not villainous was annoying. She doesn't really have any real point to the story except being there to motivate Nightwing and Cameron to work together. We're supposed to hate on Dr. McCarrison, so they could have just been chasing him instead. And this is just yet another person that we have to believe can be redeemed. Don't send petty criminals to jail because it's not their fault. They're not bad people. Look at what is going on in California, in New York, in Portland to see details as to why this doesn't really work. We just had a report here in Quebec where we have something like 10,000 additional vagrants overall across the province, and the number of drug overdose and deadly drug overdose has tripled in a year. there is a problem when petty crimes and basic things like vagrancy are not controlled. And unfortunately, for a lot of these people, it would require jail time. It would require time in a mental institution. Most of those things are not really funded properly or managed properly nowadays. They really go all out on that nothing is really Jenny's fault, but she did commit those crimes. She did steal. She did commit assault and battery, just from what we see in her flashback. And then we also said that there was drug use. We said that there was other petty crimes. Yes, she probably has some dirt and some information on Intergang. That's valuable. She can use it to talk to the DA, and with the DA arrange something to reduce her sentence. And maybe going through that sentence would be something that would get her out of her permanent state of living on the streets. You never know. There are people who turn their lives around. You can look at one Nerdrotic for an example of that. Dr. McCarrison keeps saying that Cameron is bad. Well, he's been a juvenile delinquent from what we understand and a petty criminal. We haven't really seen any big sign of moral degeneracy from him. Even prior to, at the start of issue 1, what he was doing to survive was basically walk around, found lost goods and lost money, lost everything, pawn it off, and live off of that. He wasn't committing any major crimes at the time. Overall, I would say if you wanted us to think that Cameron was a delinquent, show him more as a delinquent. If you want us to see that he's got a good soul and a good heart, take that out. It's hard to say what is the right thing to do here because it seems to be a little bit all over the place. We have that focus on anxiety at the end as well, which I always find a little bit weak. The reason for that is that it's been used as a crutch by a lot of people recently when you look at modern media. Not everything is anxiety. Anxiety is a very particular feeling and a very particular things. People keep screaming panic attacks when they see a superhero or just a hero having to stop, take a breath, and think of what he's going to do. That's not what a panic attack is. Unfortunately, it's been overused recently and doesn't make anybody look good in the end. As far as spacing goes, there's not much that really happens in this particular issue, and I really feel we're missing something important here. And what I really think we're missing is a strong action scene. We haven't had really any strong action scene in this series except in book 2, and let's say a little bit in issue 3, but it wasn't that much action and more Superman being Superman. It's not that we're hit by the exposition truck. It's not that we have people talking around a dinner table. It's muted action, muted tasks. Cameron and Nightwing going around finding someone, having a discussion. It doesn't revolve around action. It revolves around people having discussions and moving past their actions. I would have preferred, Cameron and Nightwing fighting Dr. McCarrison to rescue Jenny. Something along those lines. That would have worked a lot better. We're often teased with an action scene here, and we don't get it. And this is getting a bit annoying over time. And I hope things escalate in the last 2 issues to bring us to a satisfying conclusion. We've got 2 issues left. And the next issue seems to be revolving around Swamp Thing, which is a good thing. Swamp Thing is literally the opposite of City Boy. It's a good counterbalance here. It might move us in the right direction for a good resolution where City Boy starts to understand his power to balance the city and nature. We'll see how that goes. We Are Legends really took a shotgun approach by launching 3 series and hoping that one sticks. And it really doesn't seem to have the results that particular DC editor wanted. None of those 3 series are being talked about. The only one that was talked about a little bit was Spirit World because of pronoun issues, and that was only for 1 issue. None of them are really looked at. None of them are really purchased. I don't see any real videos on them, either complaining about them or praising them. Will they even get trade paperbacks at this point? Because if there's really no interest, why would you do it? Maybe do a trade paperback or an omnibus with all 3 series in one. I don't know. City Boy is a cool character. It's a cool concept. And the series does bring in good things. It has good ideas, but it would need more time to breathe, and it would need time to have those high-octane action scenes that we were talking about. You can't really have that in a 6-issue miniseries when you're trying to move a particular story forward or something that's too vague, like what's going on here. It's been a pretty good run, in my opinion. Not top of the line, but something seriously decent in a sea of things like Fire and Ice, Welcome to Smallville, or Hawkgirl, for that matter. You can get your hands on the first 4 issues. It's not a bad purchase, especially if you can get them at a discount. Let's see how the last 2 issue goes. That's really what will sell us on the whole concept. And hopefully, if it's really good, and if we all pool together and start buying it, if it's really good, maybe Cameron, City Boy, Kim will have a second life. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Remember to like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. Keep on reading comics. Keep on enjoying them. I'll keep analyzing them. And I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.